Hello, everyone. I'm Regis in person, and if you found us here in this video, I actually congratulate you. You actually took the most important first step, which was to know that our new country, the state of Teos, actually does exist. So congratulations on this. Now, the state of Teos is an actual country, a new country that did not exist before and now does. So, as any country, if you would like to become part of Teos, come and live as we live, you have to immigrate. And this video, this tutorial, is designed to explain the somewhat peculiar method of immigration of the state of Teos, and also a second aspect, which is the repudiation of any foreign citizenships that you may have with other foreign states. Okay? So the first thing to do is you can visit our website, our official website, which we show the URL right now, and this will give you general information about our state. And for the immigration, then you will want to reach the immigration page, which we show the URL right now on the page. Now, on that immigration page, this is where you will find the requirements and the information that you need to move forward. So first of all, you can read the page, you'll find information there, and then eventually you will find two packages, immigration packages, which you can download. Now, I do clarify that you only really need one or the other. Okay, so we have two different formats for different needs. The first one is a PDF, a set of PDFs, which are editable. And this is for more simple use cases. When you have a simple computer, it's easier to prepare. But we also have another format, which is the template for word processors. And while this requires more sophisticated computers and tools, it also gives you more leniency and is more flexible for you to attain exactly the type of affidavit you wish to get. All right? So the package is, if we open them, I'm going to show the structure. They're fairly similar for both. We have two aspects, okay? So the first aspect is immigration into Teos, so to become a Teos citizen. And the second aspect, which is optional, but is repudiation of a foreign citizenship, right? So if you're, whatever country you're in right now, I don't know, say you're in England, for example, well, the first step is you want to become a citizen of Teos, so you fill that affidavit. And when you become a citizen of Teos, you have multiple citizenship. You become a citizen of Teos, and you remain a citizen of England. And then a second step, when you're ready, you can repudiate your citizenship with England, and then you become 100% citizen of Teos. Okay? So in the package, as you see on the screen, we do have these two aspects, and both follow more or less the same structure. So the affidavit of citizenship, the part, will contain an affidavit for one adult. If you have an explicit oath with any other state, then we also offer an optional affidavit for the oath. And then after that, if you're a parent, or if you're parents, then there is a section for children, and then we have the same structure that we have onto the other side, and I'll just jump. And so the second aspect is repudiation, and in this case, again, you have an affidavit for repudiation, one per adult. We also have a set of addresses that we recommend for various states, although at the moment I make this video, we only have one for Canada and Quebec, but more will come in the future for various states around the world. And once again, you have a section for children. And just like for the citizenship, they both we have two types, four affidavits, two groups, one for when the parents work together, and you have one affidavit for one child, and then another affidavit for more than up to 4 children. And then you also have the equivalent if you're a single parent, and then for one child or up to 4 children. Okay? Hey everyone. So now I'm going to talk about the general points before we go forward with the more specialized operations. So Teos has a very peculiar way of immigrating, and also of offering the ability to repudiate. And we go through the concept of an affidavit. Okay, and an affidavit is one of the most important, if not the most single important tool of law. An affidavit is the way you tell the truth in law. Okay, that's super important. So basically, an affidavit is a list of facts, of truths that you list on a document, and then you legalize it you serve this properly on another party, and the other party must read it, and then they must rebut if there's any lies or incorrect thing. They must rebut it, and they send it back to you, and then you get served again, and then you read that and you rebut whatever is not true, and then you keep going like this, like a tennis game, until nobody else can rebut anything. And then it means that the truth, the facts, have been found, and once the affidavit is unrebutted, it becomes truth in fact. So in law, it becomes truth, absolute truth. Okay, frozen forever. So that's really important. So, and this is for an affidavit to become truth. Again, it must be legalized properly and served properly on the other party. And if they don't rebut, you have truth in law. And that can be used in the courts of law, anywhere where truth is required, you have your truth. Okay? So Teos uses this mechanism because it's strong. So it's a strong way of proving and saying, I am a citizen of Teos. Okay, that's super strong. So what it does is, as for our state, it becomes undeniable truth that you are a citizen of Teos, and therefore that Teos, we are a nation and a people, and that you have the right to live as a nation and as a state. And other states of the world, other people of the world, they cannot deny this because nobody can argue your truth, your affidavit of citizenship. So it's a very strong proof in law that you are a Teos citizen, and that is why we use this process for now. Okay. So at the moment that I make this video, we currently have, as I said in the intro, two types of packages. So one for PDF and one for word processors. I'll look at each and its particularities right now. So let's start with the PDF. So first of all, when you open the PDFs, you'll see a PDF, and it actually it's an editable PDF. So you have zones that you must change the template. It's a template. And you'll see zones with little accolades. Now these places, these accolades, have to be replaced. Okay, it's super important. Now, I cannot stress this well enough. Your affidavits must be well prepared. There cannot be any mistakes because they become invalid in law. Okay, so it's very important. Sometimes we get people who serve an affidavit and there's like missing sections, and that invalidates it. It's not valid. So you waste your time. So make sure that so now I'm gonna. And also, you want to respect the casing. Also, when you see the accolade, if you see it's all caps, use all caps. If it's regular casing, use regular casing. And make sure you edit all the places. Now, I'm going to show you. So, for example, here I have here an affidavit. For example, wait, let me just find the right one here. Here we go. So that's an affidavit of truth. And so that once it's printed, and you in the template you have more pages and some instruction pages. So of course you remove the pages you don't need, and once you have what you chose, you end up with 4 pages in this case, or more pages. For the children, we have the same thing. So here's what it looks for children, and you see, I'll show on the screen, but when you see these accolade areas like this here, you have to replace that or remove them. Now, so here I'm going to show you the pages of the affidavit. So you can see in blue the areas that must be edited. Okay, so here's page 1. This is the citizenship affidavit. Page 2. You can pause if you want to see them. I'll skip page 3 because in this case there's no customizations. But here I'm going to show you the instruction page. Now the instruction page is just to give you instructions. Do not add this page into your final affidavit. It must not be printed and removed. Okay. And then after that, you have the 3 pages, so for the legalizer, and you have to choose one of these 3. So here I'm going to show you the one for the commissioner of oath. Here's the one for notary or attorney. And if it is the citizenship affidavit, here's the one for a Teos notary, although for the repudiation does not have that option. Okay, so here's the one for a Teos notary. So you end up choosing, I'll talk about it later, but you have to choose one of these 3. So these are and you see the little blue sections is everything you need to edit to improve. Okay, so here I'm going to give you an example of just one page, but here is the page for the commissioner of oath that has been filled out with dummy information, but it gives you an idea what it looks like when it's filled out. This is what it must look like when it's ready to print. Okay, So, and again, so you choose the pages, and what you do not use, do not add it to your affidavit. So the instruction page and the legalizer page you don't use, you must remove, okay? And I'll talk about a bit later for the legalizing. And now, the other package is the word processing package. This one's a bit different. You need a software to edit these documents. So you need either Microsoft Office or Google Office or any other. I do recommend LibreOffice, which is free and you can download on the internet. It's really excellent, and it'll give you everything you need on your computer to edit these files. So these ones are a bit different because you can edit them as you wish. So here I'm going to show you the first page. You can see, and I'm going to show you the last page, the legalization page, right here. So so you can see, so as you can see, all these accolade zones with colors and highlighting. Now, these are all hints to show you what you need to edit. So you need to change everywhere that has a colored or an accolade. Replace them all. When you're done, there should be no more color left. It should be a black and white document, okay? So you remove all the hints, all the regions. You can actually activate comments if you want. It'll give you some information. But you remove all the highlighted areas. It should be a black and white document. Really important. And there should be no more placeholders with accolades, okay? Everywhere there's a placeholder with an accolade, this must be replaced with the proper value. Either your name, your full name, or the country name, or state name, or legalizer name, a date maybe. It must be fixed, okay? So remember that you need. Now, for the last part, and this is good as much for the PDFs as for the word processor package. You need to choose the legalization method that you will use. Okay, so you need to know this beforehand. Now, as I mentioned, we offer. Oh well, before I go any further, I'll also show you the repudiation affidavit. So the thing about this one is because we've already seen the legalization, I'm just going to show you the first 4 pages of that affidavit so you can see. So here's page 1. Now you see again in blue what needs to be edited. Here's page 2. Here's page 3. And here's page 4. And as you saw from the first page, you need to set a lot of addresses for the officers of the foreign state you're going to serve. We only offer, and now here we also offer, I'm going to show you a page of addresses for Quebec in Canada. So here it is. And over time, we're going to offer more suggested lists of addresses for other states. So the list will build up over time, okay? So you would fill these values into your affidavit. And actually, I'm going to show you, as an example, what it would look like with dummy information once it filled. So here's, again, the 4 pages. Once they've been filled, I think here we use best country and best state for the country. But I don't know. It could be Canada. It would be Quebec or Alberta or whatever. So here it is, page 1, when it's filled out. Here's page 2, when it's filled out. Here's page 3 and page 4. Now, now that this is done, for all affidavits, at the end you really need to fill out every field because remember it's super important that it be perfect. Once you're done, now you have to choose the legalization method that you're going to use, and we do recommend that you actually choose beforehand and you call and take an appointment before. And when you call, you take the information. So you need their date of commission, expiration date of the commission. You need their name, of course. You need to know if they're a commissioner of oath or a notary or an attorney or whatever else. And then you fill that, you choose the proper page, you fill that information beforehand. So, and then you do that before you print, and then you put the date of the appointment in the document. And then when you get there, then all you have to do is sign it up and it's ready. Now, if you're unsure what you will use, you can leave the fields blank. And then, for the name of the legalizer, the date of the commission. But remember that when you get there, you have to fill these out. It has to be set. So the name of the legalizer, of the commissioner of oath, or the notary, the name of the attorney, or the name of whatever. And then the dates, make sure you place them in. Don't forget. And then that has to be done. Okay? Now, when you print your affidavits, remember, we do recommend that you print it on high-quality paper. So do a high-quality print because you want this to last for a long time. and it's one side per page. Okay, so don't do two-face printing, one side per page. So if there's 4 pages, there should be 4 pages of paper with printed on only one side. Okay, and remember that you want to do multiple copies when you legalize it. So just don't do one. No, you need, depending on what you do, you need more than one, because an original legalized document must be sent to each party receiving it. So for example, if it's citizenship, well, you need at least 2, because you need to send an original to Teos and you need to keep one for yourself. So at least 2. If you do repudiation, it's an original to each foreign officer you serve, plus you keep at least 1 or 2 for yourself. So you need multiple copies. Okay, be sure to do that. Now about legalization, you end up having a choice to make between, say, a commissioner of oath, a notary, or notary public, or attorney, or a Teos notary. So you have multiple options, and different countries can have different names or options for that. But what matters is that you get the document legalized, and they witness you legalizing it, and then they seal it and sign it. Okay. Now, the name notary does not mean the same thing everywhere. So in most common law states, you have a notary public, and a notary public is in equivalent. But in some states, for example, in Quebec and in British Columbia, a notary is not the same as a notary public. They're actually called civil notaries, and they are actually attorneys. So in these cases, it's harder if you use a notary or a civil notary or an attorney, because sometimes they're fussy on what they will want to legalize, and sometimes they don't want to legalize affidavits, especially if they see like Teos or something. So it can give trouble. But they have the equivalent, or a more or less equivalent, of a notary public, and they call this a commissioner of oath. So that's what we recommend that you use in these states, because they're cheaper, they're easier to find, and their job is to do affidavits. So then, they're not fussy about it as much. Okay. So again, we do recommend, so if you're in a common law state, obviously a notary public, and otherwise in a civil law state, we recommend a commissioner of oath. Or if you have the option, we do recommend a notary public from Teos, which we do offer. We don't have a very big network, but it's growing. So eventually you can always investigate, and eventually you may find one in your area. But if there's none, you may have to go from an option from your local state. Okay. Now, one thing that we do recommend is that when you take your appointment with that legalist, make sure that they will have their seal with them, because we've had cases where somebody goes and the notary says, or the commissioner of oath, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my seal." So make sure that you remind them that they need their seal with them. Okay. Now, another thing is to consider is some legalists may give you trouble that they don't want to sign your document. This is more common with attorneys or notaries, like civil notaries. Sometimes notary publics do that too. But here's what you need to tell them. Remember that the affidavit is your truth, not theirs. It's your truth. They do not endorse anything of what you say in the affidavit. It's none of their business. That's not what they do. Okay? So it's all they do is they witness you signing the affidavit, and of course doing an oath or a solemn affirmation. But in the end, they are only a witness. That's all they do. So in front of them, you declare or solemnly declare your oath, and then you sign and initialize the pages in front of them. And after that, all they do is witness. They sign and seal that they saw you do this, and they check your ID. That's all they do. So they have no reason to not want to sign it. They don't endorse anything. It's not a contract to them. It's just they saw you. They've been a witness to you signing it. Okay? So there should be no problem. Now, I do clarify also, in some countries, foreign countries, it may be harder to get an affidavit legalized. May or may not. It may vary from state to state. But in some cases, maybe you don't have easy access to commissioner oath. Maybe you need an attorney. Maybe that's all that's available, or maybe it's something else in your country. Do what you have to do. But if it's an attorney, then you're going to have no choice. You're going to have to find one that will do it. So you have to explain them. Eventually, it may be hard, but eventually you'll get to that. In the future, Teos may change the method, may remove the concept of an affidavit. But for now, as in the early days, it's a solid method of establishing citizenship. So that's why we do that. So in foreign countries, it may be harder, maybe not, but you have to do what you have to do, right? And then after that, well, look, in the end, once you have your appointment, once you're in front of the legalist, basically what you have to do is in front of them, you basically need to simply initialize in front of them every page. So here's an example. You initialize every page. And then after that, you know, declare your solemn affirmation. And after that, you sign it in front of them. They have to see you. And then after that, what they'll do is they will, now this is just a template, really, it's just a sample, but you know, after that, they'll just sign here. And after that, they will seal it, and that's a legalized affidavit. That's it. You're done. And then you do multiple copies of that, and this is a valid affidavit. It's not so complicated. And then once we're done, then we move to service. Okay, so once you're done with the legalist, you have all your copies. Good. Now there is one last step, and you have to send it by mail. You have to serve it to either Teos if it's a citizenship affidavit, or to the foreign state if it's a repudiation. So you send it by, well, in the end, what matters is to serve it. You could serve it with witness. You could do a bailiff. But in the end, for Teos, at least, what we ask is that you do a certified mail. Yes, it's very simple. So an affidavit, the concept of an affidavit is your truth legalized, and then it must be properly served on the other party. Okay, so that's why we use certified mail. Now, I do clarify that for Teos, it's simpler, but when you do it with the other states, it has to be very well served. So here's what you need to know. Now, in some cases, it's not required, but in some cases, it helps to actually know your tracking number ahead of time and maybe even put it into your document. So, for example, it depends on each countries, of course. In the foreign country of Canada, their Foreign Corporation of Canada Post offers, for example, these little stubs that you can go get ahead of time, and you can ask for a couple, and then they come with a tracking number, and then you enter that tracking number in your document, and then you basically paste that on your envelope, and when you go pay for it, then it becomes active, so you kind of pre-prepared it. So you can, I think the United States allow that too, and other states may do that too. So that's for the foreign state of Canada. And then when you when you send the document and you pay, and there's you make sure that the post clerk will stamp it, your stub. You have to keep your stub. It's half your proof. You get it stamped with the date, and you keep it. And after that, once it's sent, you wait a couple days. Once it's actually received on the other side, you also have to print the proof of reception. So you take it with signature if it's an option or automatic, but you take it with signature. And usually it's on the website of that corporation. You will be able to enter your tracking number, and then you'll see a page of confirmation of reception, and that you print, and you staple it with your stub, and you keep them into your archives, because these are very important. This is your proof of service. Now, if you send your citizenship to Teos, it's less important because we're not fussy about it. But if you send a repudiation to a foreign state, remember, they're not your friends, and they're not happy to see you repudiate. So you really want a strong proof of service. That's very important. Okay, so be sure to keep that into your archives. And I do mention, if you have multiple affidavits that you send to the same destination, you can add them into the same envelope. So, for example, a family, mom and dad, and one affidavit for 3 children. Well, that's 3 affidavits. If you send them to become citizen of Teos, well, you can put all 3 in one envelope with one tracking number, and you send it to Teos. You can also do that for your repudiation. If you send it to 5 officers of your state, well, you slide them, and then you can serve 3 to each of the 5 officers, 3 per envelope. Okay, so that's also fine. What matters is to serve it with a tracking number, and you keep the proof. Now, in the future, look, at this moment, for Teos citizenship, we receive them at our embassy in Canada, because Teos does not have its own mailing system for the moment. So we appreciate Canada's foreign state of Canada's service to allow us to manage an embassy. It may not last forever, but for now, they've been very generous with us, and we appreciate that very much. And but in the future, and for foreign states, if you're around the world, I don't know, in Vietnam or in South America, it's not necessarily simple to send it internationally to our embassy in Canada. But it will be required in the first few citizens, but eventually we'll be able to establish embassies in your area, and then people in your area can send the affidavits to that embassy, and then we'll make it simpler. Okay, so it's only temporary, but in the early days, it has to be sent to that Canadian embassy until maybe someday Canada doesn't want to support or offer us service anymore, and then we may use the internet, or we may change the way affidavits or the citizenship is created. Okay. Hey everyone. So I've already talked about a few things in the first part, but I'm gonna here focus more precisely on the Teos citizenship affidavit. Okay, I've mentioned it before, but I'll kind of repeat it again. So why are we using a legalized affidavit format for citizenship? Well, the reason is that it's the strongest proof in law that you are a Teos citizen. Okay, it cannot be anything stronger than that. It's your proof, and if you ever need to prove it someday, for example, in a foreign court of law, well, you can take a certified copy of your affidavit, file it on court record, and boom, you are proof that you're a Teos citizen. They can't do anything against it, and then you can invoke help from your courts. You can do anything that Teos can do to help you. It's the strongest proof in law that you are a Teos citizen. Okay, so that's why we do it. Maybe someday we'll change it, but as our state is still young, still developing, it helps that we have a strong proof in law of citizenship. Okay. Now the affidavit itself, and I kind of have it here. Now basically, it's a solemn affirmation, and what it does is that you declare basically that you agree with the articles that are in the affidavit. So obviously, when you fill the affidavit, you want to agree with the contents of the affidavit, so you want to make sure that you read it well. I'll just mention the general purpose of what we tried to achieve with this affidavit. It's a three main general points. Now, the first point is that we want to make sure that those who join Teos are freedom lovers, people who want freedom, people who want justice. Okay, that's very important, because if people want to join Teos to just repeat injustice and tyranny, well, that's not for them. So that affidavit, that affirmation shows that they are here to fight for justice, for freedom, and that's what they want to build. Okay, so that's really important. The other intent is to stop traitors, spies, and foreign agents who would want to join Teos to sow chaos and to basically destroy the state. So for this purpose, the affidavit is really strong to block anybody who's there would join as a subversive agent, or also anybody that has an oath of office to a foreign state, which would ensure that they have allegiance to a foreign state against Teos. An example is an attorney has an oath to their bar of their state, so they cannot become a Teos citizen, because obviously they're working for somebody else. So that would make them traitors. So that's why we have a strong oath condition, and I'll come back to that later if you do have one. And finally, we also want to stop anybody that has committed serious public crimes. Okay, and that's really important. Public crimes in common law is when you intentionally hurt somebody else. So some people, sometimes they have a criminal conviction for having drunk a few beers, drunk driving with a few beers. Well, that's not a crime in Teos. Maybe also sometimes they didn't put their seatbelt and they have a conviction. That's not a crime in Teos. Now, a crime in Teos is if you have intentionally hurt somebody else, okay, seriously hurt. So that's a public crime. And if you have that, well, sadly, we don't want criminals in Teos, so that can't. We want people that don't commit crimes because we actually severe on crimes. Okay, so that's really important. But those are the main points that we try to do. So if for most people, that will be fine and they can come into Teos, and for the others, we're really sorry, but we really can't have everybody in Teos because we're trying to build something for honesty, for truth, for freedom, and that it requires a certain type of people. Okay, so when you prepare your affidavit for the citizenship affidavit, well, remember to print it on high quality paper. Again, you want to make sure that it's one-sided, so one side per page, and you want to make multiple copies. Okay, so remember that you need to serve to Teos an original legalized copy, and you also want to keep one for yourself. So you need to make at least 2 copies, possibly 3, of your original legalized document. So 1 for Teos and 1 or 2 for your own records. Okay, so original, make more than 1 or 2 copies. So you print them ahead of time, and when you get to the legalist, the notary, commissioner of oath, whatever, attorney, well, then you sign, initialize and sign every copy, and they will do the same, so you get 2 or 3 original copies. Okay, that's really important. Now, well, I do clarify that your citizenship to Teos, now Teos does not tell anyone that you're a citizen of Teos. Okay? It's your secret. It's yours to tell. So if you want to tell everybody in the world, hey, I'm a citizen of Teos, it's your choice. If you'd like to keep it secret, it's your choice. We don't tell anything to anyone, but we do clarify that it is a human right internationally to choose a citizenship of another state. Okay, and here I won't list. I'll just list a few. But other states, they cannot punish you for choosing another citizenship. For example, you have the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. Here I'll just list Article 12.1, 12.4, 19.1, and 19.2, and 25A. Now, these are all related to your right to have citizenship and to participate in your own government. You also have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15.1 and 15.2, and the American Declarations of the Rights and Duties of Man, Articles 19, 20, and 21. And you have other charters and rights and other that protect this right. It's a very well-established right. You have the right to citizenship of any state you want to, who will give it to you, and you have the right to participate in your government. So they can't punish you for having it. But anyways, just know that we do not tell anyone about it, okay? And the last point that we need to talk about is, again, as I've mentioned, is the oaths. If you have an oath with a foreign state or a foreign entity, you can't immigrate to Teos. You can't. Now, if you really want to immigrate to Teos, you need, and you have an oath, you need to repudiate it. Okay, so this is very essential. So, for example, and as I said, an attorney cannot immigrate to Teos. If you really want to immigrate, you will have to quit your job and repudiate your oaths of office with either your job, your bar, or the country state. Now, I do clarify that there's a difference between a presumed oath and an intentionally taken oath. Okay, so an example, I'll use the foreign state of Canada. So a Canadian citizen that was born there, they never actually took a Canadian oath. The king, Charles III, presumes that there is an oath, but you actually never taken one. So it's just a presumption of oath, so you can actually ignore it because it's actually an invalid contract. If you presume something that you never did, you never really did it, so you don't have to repudiate. So a Canadian citizen that never took an oath can immigrate to Teos because it doesn't really have one. It's just an unfair presumption from the other side. But if you do have an oath, either with a professional order, some office of some kind, or if you're an immigrant that immigrated to, for example, another state and took an oath intentionally, for example, a French citizen that would have immigrated to Canada, would have taken an oath, to the Queen, for example, or the King. Then that was an intentional oath. You cannot immigrate to Teos because you have a duty and an allegiance to a foreign state to basically obey them before you benefit Teos. So that would make you a traitor. But you can, so if you have an oath, you need to repudiate it absolutely before you become a Teos citizen. Okay, so if you do, we do offer in our package as an affidavit of repudiation. So it works like all the others. You fill it well. It's shorter. You legalize it the same way, and then you send it to the officers of your state who would be concerned to know. So for an example, if we were going to take the foreign state of Canada and say Quebec, for example, or any other province, I would recommend, for example, to send it to either the King of England or the Governor General in Canada, also the Prime Minister of Canada, and then the Prime Minister of your province. At least the 3 levels are served, and that you repudiate your oath. And then after that, once they're served, make sure you keep all your proofs of service. Very important, right? You need to keep them into your archives. After 21 days, if they don't answer, it becomes truth and law. Then you repudiated all your oaths. Congratulations. Remember that if you have a job assigned to it, you may have to leave that job, because if you keep working there like an attorney, you can't remain an attorney but repudiate your oath to the bar. It doesn't work. So you need to make big changes. But if you do that, once it's all repudiated, then congratulations. Make sure you keep all your proof, and then you can fill your affidavit of citizenship to Teos and immigrate. Okay, so that's really important. But again, if you do not have any oath, which is the majority of people really, you can just ignore it and you can immigrate to Teos immediately. Hey everyone, so now I'm going to address the topic of repudiation of a foreign citizenship. Okay, so So now at this step, you're probably a citizen of Teos at this moment, and then you probably have a dual citizenship with another state. It can be any state. I'm going to use in this example Canada, but it can be really any state or any country. And at some point, you may want to say, hey, I do not want to be Canadian anymore. I want to be 100% Teo citizen, and therefore I renounce that citizenship. Now, of course, if you want, you can use the general, the what that country recognizes as the proper way to renounce that citizenship if you want. But sometimes they can actually give you trouble. You can always repudiate, and repudiate is basically you force cut that contract. Okay, like you don't give a chance to say no. You do it a force cut, and that's what it is. Now we offer you in the package, immigration package, that in the section repudiation, all the tools you need to complete your repudiation. Okay, so how it works is basically you have a right to be dissatisfied with the service of the country that you are with, right? Like citizenship is a contract, and as a contract, it has terms, and those terms can be vitiated. They can lie. Maybe it was nice at first a few years ago, but now they've turned tyrannical. There's a lot of lies they didn't tell you about. You do not like where they're going, and that contract of citizenship is vitiated. And if it is vitiated, it is a broken contract, and it is fraudulent. And therefore, you can, like all contracts that are vitiated, you can repudiate it, which basically to cut it. And that's what we offer you to do here. So basically, it's an affidavit. I think I have it here. So this is an example of the affidavit of repudiation, and it's fairly simple. Like all affidavits, you read it, you make sure that you agree with it. You have a section to even add your own reasons as to why you think your country violated their terms of your contract and that it's vitiated. And then once you're ready, you basically print it and you send it to them. And then, okay, so you add your own reasons and then you send it and repudiate. Now, we do recommend to Thailand citizens that you prepare, even if you may want to still keep your other citizenship for many years to come, but we do recommend that you prepare your repudiation right now and have it ready, okay? So that's wise, because you suppose in a couple of years there's a war and it all gets to hell, and it's really hard because it's really difficult to prepare the affidavit of repudiation. You want it to be well done. It's more complicated and it has to be perfect. So you don't want to do it in a rush when you're scared, when everything's wrong. No, you don't want. You want to do it now while you're calm, you have time, you do it well, and then you can prepare it now. And even if you legalize it now, you can keep it for years before you send it, but at least you're ready. Okay, so that's what we recommend. And also, like I said, for that is because it's more complicated. Well, the first thing is that for the affidavit of repudiation is, first of all, you have to serve multiple officers of the foreign state. Suppose, for example, Canada, well, you may want to at least serve the King or the Governor General, the Prime Minister of Canada, possibly the Minister of Immigration, and also you surely want to send it to your province, so you at least the Prime Minister of that province, possibly similar ministers there. So there's at least 5 officers right there that you want to serve it to. And honestly, the more the better. So if you want to send more, it costs more money, it's more effort, but it's always stronger. So you at least 5 or 6 officers right there. And of course, you want to keep at least 1 or 2 copies for yourself. So that's at least 8 copies, maybe more, and all need to be originals. So it's a bigger job for the repudiation. When you legalize it, you need to make at least 9 or 10 copies with the notary or the commissioner of oath or the notary public. So it's a bigger job, so you have more to print and do. So you want to do that ahead of time. It's a big job. Also is that what's even more important is that the affidavit of repudiation needs to be perfectly prepared. Okay, that's very important. Now, when you send an affidavit to Teos, you have to understand that we're happy to have you as a citizen. I mean, so if it's little mistakes, but it's still legally valid, well, we're fine. We close our eyes on it. It's not important. But when you repudiate with a foreign state, they're not happy. They're not your friends, and they're not happy to see you leave. So if your affidavit has mistakes and you send it, they won't tell you, but they'll consider it invalid. So they still consider you a citizen, and they're not telling you. And then bad things can happen. Okay, so that affidavit of citizenship, of repudiation of citizenship of a foreign state, needs to be perfectly filled out. So take your time, check out every field, every article, make sure you don't miss a single spot. Make sure you prepare your your appointment with a legalist well. Make sure there's no mistakes in any names, any dates. Everything has to be perfect. Make sure that when you get there, everything is legalized properly. Signatures, the initials, everything needs to be perfect on every copy. And remember, you need to make at least possibly 8 or 9 copies. Again, you want to keep 2 originals for you in your archives, and that's really important. And also, you in Teos, when you immigrate to Teos, we give you the option of using a Teos notary. But when you repudiate, you don't want to do that with the repudiation for a foreign state, because you don't want to use a notary of Teos, because you don't want to give them any opportunity to say, oh, we don't recognize that, it's not our notary. So in this case, use one of their legalists. So I don't know, if it's Canada, you want to use a commissioner of oath or a notary public or a notary or an attorney from Canada. If it's another country, use from that country. You want to use their own legalist, as you want to maximize your chances that they're going to have to recognize it. So in this case, use that of their country, okay? And another key aspect is you want to make sure that you serve them well. Remember, an affidavit is only valid if it is well filled, well legalized, and well served with proof of service. So in this case, when you send it to the other parties, well, first of all, in the case of the repudiation, you may want to make the extra effort and go get your stubs. So here's an example for the foreign state of Canada, but every country will have their own. Get your own little stubs at the post office first. Take the tracking number, put into the document before you even print it. So that even stronger. You don't have to, but it helps. And then after that, when you send it to every officer, of course, you send an original copy in each case. And then when you send it, make sure you get your stubs stamped with the date by the clerk that it was sent. You keep it, and then after that, once it's you make sure that you send it with signature. If it's an option, make sure it's with signature. And then when it's received to the other side, you go onto the website of that postal company that you used, and you go to the tracking number and you print the confirmation of reception. That's really important. You print it and you staple it with your stub and you keep it in your archives, because this is essential. It's so important, because the affidavit is only valid if it's served and you have the proof of it. Okay, you may want to scan on your computer, make copies, make sure you have the proofs. So once they're served, the officers of the other state are served, they have 21 days to answer. Now, although they can answer, they 99.999% of the time they won't answer, because they can't prove that the service they offered you has changed and has vitiated. And most of the time it is, because they lie a lot. There's a lot of fraud, a lot of implied terms, and of course they know that, and they can't answer. But after 21 days, if they don't answer, congratulations, you're no longer a citizen of their state, because you have proof in law by your affidavit and proof of service that you have repudiated, and now you're good to go. Now, I do mention again that keep your proofs of service and affidavit, your copies, forever. They're very precious, because someday, if you need to prove it in a court of law, you make certified copies of those, including the proofs of service, and that's what you file in court. And then you have valid proof that you are not a Canadian citizen anymore. But if you can't prove it, they'll presume you still are. So these proofs are very important. Okay? So again, just to resume it, the key essence of all this is do it well. No mistakes. Take your time. Check every field. Don't forget a single one. Placeholder. Replace them all. Legalize it well. Take your time. Send it well by certified mail. Print it well. And keep your proofs. That's very important. Okay, so the key is the perfection of it. That's just about it. Thank you. Hey everyone. Now about the children, the last part. We're going to talk. So first of all, yes, just like the affidavits for adults, as well as for immigration into Teos, as well as for the repudiation of a foreign citizenship, we offer in the package the versions of the affidavits for children. Okay, so we have one for the word processing, obviously, for both types, repudiation and for citizenship. And in the PDF format, we offer 4 different types of templates. Obviously, we have when you have the 2 parents acting together, and we have one template for 1 child and 1 template for up to 4 children. And then after that, we have the same, but for only a single parent, for up to one child, and for one child, and for up to 4 children. Okay, so if you're 2 parents acting together, you pick the right format. If you're a single parent acting, you take the right format. If you have more than 4 children, well, it's easy. All you do is just compose with various copies. So if you have 6 children, well, you take one with 4 and you make a second affidavit for 2. If you have 5 children, you take one for 4 and then a second affidavit for a single child, so 5. If you have 10, well, you do 2 for 4 children and 1 for 2 children. So you just compose like that, what you do until you got the proper amount. But you can combine it to do any amount of children in this case, okay? And if you use the word processing, obviously you can customize it to any amount you have. I do clarify that it is stronger if both parents act together. Okay, so if both parents agree to immigrate their children or repudiate for their children, there's nothing stronger than that option. It's the strongest possible when both parents act together. If you don't have both parents, if you're alone, only one of the parents, you can absolutely still do it. It's just stronger if you're both, but you can still repudiate your children or immigrate your children as a single parent because you still have very strong authority. They are your children. And linked to that is the last question, which we sometimes get, is what do I do if I lost guardianship of my children? Okay, well, you can absolutely still do it. Okay, now, first of all, the foreign states who stole your children, okay, they did it with a fraud. They did not tell you that, but they presumed that you gave away your children to them and that they own your children. And that's why they took them away, because they presume it's theirs, so they could take them away. They're not yours. If they were yours, they couldn't take them. So that contract is vitiated by a lot of fraud and lies and deceit and unsaid terms. And so it's very dirty and very deceptive. So it's a vitiated contract. This being said, when you make a claim, even if you lost guardianship, nothing changes. That their contract is vitiated and that you have given life and birth to that child, as well as the mother, as well as the father. The mother carried that child in her womb. The father gave his own genetics to it. Life came from these two, from you 2 parents. And so you have the superior claim to any other state and country out there. So even if you lost your children, it's fraudulent. They basically stole your children and you still have the upper claim. And you can, so our affidavits are designed to work with that. And you fill the affidavit and you send it and you have the highest claim of all. And yes, you immigrate your children no matter what, or you repudiate the citizenship of your children above all. And if the other states are not happy, they have to prove that they have a superior claim to yours, and they don't. They would have to prove that they gave birth to that child, and they don't. They didn't. You did. So your claim is superior, and Teos, of course, will help you. So yes, you can absolutely immigrate all your children using these documents. As always, just make sure that they are the affidavits are well filled, well set. Make sure they're well legalized and well sent, served. But it works just like any other affidavit. And once it's done, your children are, and then after that, Teos could help in law, for example, or anything else. Thank you.